Ladies and gentlemen, we do not often gather on this large a scale at Berkeley High School, and we're doing so this morning not only because of the weight and the gravity that issues of violence, particularly how those issues affect young people, bring to the table, but we also get together this morning around the importance and the urgency of finding solutions, of looking at models, of considering actions, of looking at different ways to be so that the violence that we see in our communities, that we've seen in mass in the media, in our communities and neighboring communities, no longer gets seen as the norm. It's not the norm, it doesn't have to be, and so we're gathered together today to listen to people and to share with people who can give us some guidance on how we might pursue a more productive and peaceful path. I hope that the words and the work that you hear this morning cause you as individuals to reflect on how you might better the condition surrounding issues of violence, surrounding what happens out there, the stuff that we're all exposed to. I hope that you'll reflect a little upon that. Getting to a place where the current level of violence is not the norm requires effort. It requires hard work, it requires patience, and most difficult sometimes it requires forgiveness. A lot of people feel wronged out there, and that's at the root of some of the stuff we're dealing with. But the fact is, forgiveness is essential. The words of the former South African president and longtime activist Nelson Mandela are, courageous people do not fear offering forgiveness for the sake of peace. And I hope you'll consider that this morning. Would you please welcome our MC this morning, from Alive and Free, Miss Estelle. Thank you, Berkeley High.
Good morning, boys and girls. But it's not mine. The world is not mine. But we want you to have one. And we want you to have one that is wonderful, one that's safe. I am, if you've ever listened to Street Soldiers, I am Lady Estelle. And I am delighted to be with you this morning, be here with you this morning. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge some sponsors. First, Achievers Incorporated. They supply caps, gowns, and graduation materials, but they also provide a concern for you, a safety for you, for the young people who will wear these caps and gowns, who will graduate. Our next sponsor, Berkeley High School Development Group. They fund numerous enrichment activities on campus and encourage teachers' creativity. I'm gonna ask that you turn your cell phones off, that you focus. Don't text, don't talk, look and listen, because this is about your life. There's a special guest for today. Well, we have, yes, Precious Life, a window into Berkeley's recent history with violence, presented by students from Ms. Lauren Benjamin's fifth period, AHA hip hop club.
Mr. Rodriguez, Jones, Anderson, Nasser, Williams. I'm going to miss class for a few days. I know that it's progress reports coming up, and this is like the most important part of the year so far. So I don't really want to, but did you see the news last night? That story about the guy, that man, that dude, that woman, that mother, that father of four, that college student, that janitor, that vendor, that football player, that got shot in East Oakland, in Richmond, in West Berkeley, in Vallejo, San Jose, San Francisco. That was my uncle, cousin, niece, brother. That was my best friend. We got a lot of grieving to do. I never expected to attend a party where people were killed. I mean, really? Who does? But after that stupid party in El Cerrito, that party where nobody saw nothing, and nobody heard nothing, and nobody did nothing, and 2 kids were shot and 1 was killed. I came back to school on Monday, and when I started telling my story, some of my classmates told me that they go to parties like that all the time. All the time? I mean, really? I don't even worry about kids with guns anymore. It's the parents I worry about. One teacher asked my class how many of us had guns at home. As soon as she said it, she knew that it was wrong to ask and tried to take back the question before anybody could answer. But it was too late. Half the kids in the room had shot up already. Yeah, I mean, this is Berkeley. Are there really that many guns in this town? I was a freshman at Berkeley High when they found 7 guns in my school. I mean, this is Berkeley High, not Castlemont or not Richmond High. There's a university right up the street and a police station right across the street. Everybody's supposed to be so cool. What do we need guns for? Twice in 3 days recently, dudes pulled guns on people to get their Jordans. The last one was on the Ohlone Trail, the one that leads to Berkeley. I love my Jordans. They're cool. They're like turquoise and orange. Who'd think those colors would look so good together? Kinda like recessed peanut butter cups for your feet. A combination that shouldn't go together but does. Who'd thunk it? I have maybe 5 outfits that match those shoes. But if some guy pull a gun on me, he can have those shoes. Man, I'll even lace them up for you. I was featured on Channel 2 News in 2011 after my 3-year-old was shot in his stroller in East Oakland. I should feel safe when I'm taking my kids to and from school. But I don't. I'm not. My old English teacher was so proud of me when he saw me on TV. He even called me articulate, a word he never used about me when I was in class. But I wasn't articulate. I was pissed off and scared. I'm a mother now. I ran into my friend's grandfather after he was shot. He was putting up posters at the BART station asking if anybody knew anything about his grandfather's death. He said, "I'd like to come up to that school and ask those kids what they know, because I can't forgive them right now. I'll never be able to forgive them. Not until I know what happened." I know that kids make mistakes. I mean, all kids make mistakes. I was a kid once. Hell, I'm 50 years old now and I'm still making mistakes. But I know it's an awfully big burden to carry around something like that. I'm ready to forgive, but I'm not ready to forget. I was from Eritrea, and I loved Berkeley High. And everybody loved me. What could you not love about me? I'm handsome, I'm intelligent, college-bound, daring. A teacher told me that word, daring. In my EL class that I wrote it down, the little spiral notebook I keep in my back pocket. I love homecoming and being a senior. I especially loved it because I love being loud. I would shout it from the rooftops. Life is wonderful in America. So, of course, I love Thanksgiving until the day my sister's husband destroyed any chance of I having a future. My classmates made a picture book about my life and raised money to bury me in my homeland. I go to Longfellow with my sister, and while we didn't have no Columbine or Sandy Hook, my mama was pissed off. And when they found that lady dead on Sacramento Street, I mean, we walked down that street every day, even after dark. And Longfellow is a good school, a very good school. We had English, history, math, and PE together. He was quiet, but when he didn't talk, it was usually something funny. He was a little guy. He loved video games and skateboards, and he attended Berkeley schools from the beginning. This little guy called himself a veteran. I remember thinking, a veteran of what? Before I figured it out. Then his best friend shot and killed him in April, playing with a gun at his house. In 3 different classes, I sat next to his empty chair, a holdover from the beginning of the year when we sat together by last name, except his seat wasn't always empty. Some people would sit there and doodle on his desk. Some people dropped little notes on the chair like they expected him to answer them. We were 9th graders, you know. Finally, one teacher taped a piece of construction paper on the desk and let everyone write notes or draw on it. Some people wrote long notes like they expected him to read them, but I only wrote 3 letters. R.I.P. That was the year I grew up, fast. The boy that shot him, his best friend, he was never the same. Of course, none of us were. Some of my friends have whole drawers full of t-shirts with faces and dates on them. When they open the drawer, it's like opening a graveyard. How could they wear those shirts? My dad says there was no such thing as anger management when he grew up, that I need to learn to control my temper. Well, that was a long time ago. I mutter under my breath. I would never say that to his face. He gets really hot easy. I mean, easy. I was a kid then. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, right here in Berkeley. How could anything like that happen here? This is a city of peace lovers and protests. A man threw a party for his niece. It was on a Saturday. It was a birthday party for 8th graders, for little kids. We were little and we were young. Anyway, some older dudes, not kids at all, some grown-ass little men, wanted to join in the fun. My friend's uncle told them to go away. He told them, "These girls ain't even had their periods yet." We laughed. Those kids come back 10 minutes later in a car, and they shot him. Nobody should die like that. Nobody should lose their innocence that way. Now they want to arm the teachers. Ain't that something? That's all we need now. Teachers packing guns at school. Have you ever seen Miss Tammer get mad? Miss Dover? Miss Carton? Miss Jones? Every one of them could be a maniac. Any one of them. At any time. Would you trust any one of them with a gun? I would not want to be called up to that desk with some teacher asking me, "Do you really want to act out today, Mr. Brown? Or should we just have a Second Amendment solution?" When she heard about all that shooting in Berkeley, my mama said she was going to check her gun, even after I told her that she was more likely to kill one of us than any other perpetrator. She said, "Baby, I'm trying to keep y'all safe." I shook my head. Then she told me to shut up. And I did. You know I did. I was in class after lunch with my friend. We had been in school together since kindergarten. She had been saying all morning that she was going to kill this other girl. She kept saying it, and she kept saying it. Then she showed me the gun in her backpack, right in the middle of 4th period. I had never seen one before. I'm glad I told the teacher, and I'm glad she told the safety officer, and I'm glad I got the hell out of that room alive. It doesn't always happen that way. When I attended Berkeley High School, I was really immature, you know, just young and dumb. But we didn't know how dumb. We were cheerleaders. I thought it was fun the first time we went to that party. That guy pointed his gun at us, making little green dots on our forehead with the pistol. I thought, hey, that's the price of admission for a party like this. A party with free drugs and free booze and fine guys. I mean, fine guys. 1 month later, I went there again with my girl. You know, it's funny. I don't remember her name, but I won't forget Yahim putting himself between us and the gun. I didn't even really know him. A week later, I learned that he would have been the first of like 8 kids in his family to graduate from high school. I will never forget him. He saved my life. My classmate had a scholarship to Fresno State. Man, he was juiced. He had a long list of gonnas. He was gonna play basketball. He was gonna get out of Berkeley, gonna do this, gonna do that, gonna do something with his life. Then, something happened with his baby mama. Something he thought he could fix with a gun. He brought that gun and his history in juvie and his recent 18th birthday to that dude causing the trouble. 2 years later, after 2 years in prison, my friend can't even get a job. Everybody treats him like a thug, when all he was trying to do was protect his baby and the mother of his child. If he had left that gun at home, he would have a different life today. Life is precious. Mr. Rodriguez, Jones, Anderson, Nasser, Williams. I'm going to miss class for a few days. I know that it's finals coming up, and this is like the most important part of the year so far. So I don't really want to, but did you see the news last night? That story about the guy, that man, that dude, that woman, that mother, that father of 4, that college student, that janitor, that vendor, that football player that got shot in East Oakland, in Richmond, in West Berkeley, in Vallejo, San Jose, San Francisco. That was my uncle, cousin, brother. That was my best friend.
This is for your life. They were amazing, and the message was powerful. And we have someone else here today with another message for you, Dr. Victor Rios, and he is also an alumni of Berkeley High School. Let's welcome Dr. Victor Rios.
Thank you for welcoming me back to my old school, to my alma mater, Berkeley High School, home of the stinging Yellow Jackets. The irony of being here and talking about violence is that last time I was in this very auditorium, some guys were trying to push me off that balcony. So today I would like to talk with you about how gun violence begins with smaller acts of violence and how what we need to do is step it up to prevent more tragedies. You see, gun violence is, think of it as the top of a summit, the top of a mountain. And what makes that mountain up is all these small pebbles. These pebbles of small acts of violence. So bullying, a man calling a woman a bitch. That's a small act of violence that accumulates, right? So that when a guy shoots his wife, right, it's because he's gotten to the level of believing that women are inferior than men, that they're female dogs, right? And it takes all these years of learning to accumulate this understanding that it's okay to commit violence on people. So it's up to us, right, as everyday people, the 4.0 students, the leaders, the marginalized students, the bad students with the bad grades. It's up to all of us to start eliminating those pebbles so that we could stop seeing those horrible acts of violence being committed in our society. Did you know that in our country, we spend $12 billion a year, $12 billion a year on gun violence? This is money, taxpayer money, your parents. If you work, you're paying taxes. That could be going towards you going and getting funded for education in college, for programs. And we're spending it on gun violence. So it's a serious issue in our society. And gun violence is not a gang thing, it's not a drug dealer thing, it's not a black thing, it's not a Latino thing. It's an American thing. Just think of Sandy Hook, the horrible tragedy where little babies were shot and killed, man. Do you really want our community to have to go through that? Then it starts now, eliminating those little pebbles that make up this giant mountain, that then at the peak, people really do believe that they can solve their conflicts with gun violence. You see, I'm personally a victim of gun violence. Multiple times. I'll just tell you one story. When I was a sophomore here at Berkeley High School, my second semester, my best friend was killed, shot in front of me, murdered. I'm a youngster, man. I'm 15 years old. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to deal with this violence. But again, that violence didn't take place in a vacuum. It didn't just magically appear and somebody got shot, right? It was years of all these issues, small conflicts. It was years. It started with freshman year when I walked into school and a group of guys came up to me, seniors, and started smacking me in the head and challenging me to a fight. And the rest of you just looked and been laughed or walked away because you were scared. And you didn't step up. You didn't have my back. Right? We need to have each other's back. When we start seeing these small acts of violence, young people, we need to step up and be there for each other. Speak up. And if you're afraid to speak up at that moment, maybe it's time to go tell an adult in the school so that they can take care of it. I'll just show you some quick pictures. We were on national TV. They're very blurry, but there's a group of guys on that balcony, all of them trying to throw me off. There they are. And then there I am in the hallway, right? These guys over here are trying to jump me, and I'm the one that gets dragged away by the safety officer, police officer. There I am, on national TV, a violent gang member who's actually, people are trying to jump me. But this is what happens, right? This is school colors, in case you haven't seen it. So young people, looking back, what I find surprising about these fights and the gun violence was that all of these small conflicts that led to tragedy could have been avoided. That the bullying that took place between different groups could have been stopped before it got really serious. And this could have happened if my classmates, some of them leaders in the school, would have stepped it up, intervened, spoken up, and provided information on those that were threatening my friends and I. Instead, we had to fend for ourselves and get involved in violence in order to prove ourselves and feel protected. We lived in a culture of silence towards violence. No one dared to speak up. Young people, it is time to end the culture of silence towards violence. The reason we want to end this culture is because hurt people, right? If you see someone getting bullied, getting called a name, homophobic slurs being made, gay, and bad, and we don't do anything about it, that young person gets hurt. And then they either hurt themselves or they hurt others. And we see it all the time. And we need to speak up because those small pebbles accumulate. And they are what builds that mountain that at the very peak, we start to see the gun violence taking place. Young people, as a fellow Yellow Jacket, I am pleading with you, urging you to step it up, to become proactive bystanders, to become leaders, to speak up when you see intimidation, threats, violence, and weapons, to let it be known to administrators at the school or teachers so that they can help us deal with violence in the right way. Even those people that are stopped from committing violence are often thankful that someone stepped in to stop them from the horrible act, that someone had the courage to tell them that what they were doing was not okay, that someone had the heart to say, enough is enough. Do you know that most school shooters tell their peers, classmates, and friends their plans to shoot up the school. And guess what most of these school shooters do? Guess what most of their friends do? At first they're in shock. They're like, whoa, this guy's crazy. And then step number 2 is they're like, whatever. And they don't tell anyone. Right? This culture of silence towards violence. So I challenge you, next time you see those students call someone gay, or call a girl a bitch, or push another student around, I challenge you to speak up, to let the bully know that this is not okay. And if you can't do that for safety reasons, then you approach adults in the school so that they can take care of it. You see, because of violence, because I was bullied, I had to hit the streets. And I dropped out of Berkeley High for 2 semesters. And in the streets, I encountered more violence. And then I ended up in juvie. And then after my friend is killed, I start to reflect. And I happen to have some great teachers at this school that started to reach out and help me out, like Ms. Sanders, Ms. Rutz, and other amazing teachers that have a legacy here. And they interrupted violence. They stepped up. They had the heart to speak up. But it wasn't just them. It was also you, my classmates, who had my back. You see, one day, as I was changing my life around, one of these guys in a group caught me in the hallway going to 4th period. And he pushed me off the steps. And I fell down and my elbow started bleeding, gushing everywhere. I got up and I wanted to fight, but I stopped myself because I wanted to change my life around. So like a coward, in my mind, right, like a coward, I walked, cleaned myself up, went to class, but I was furious. And I walked into my economics class, and the teacher was already teaching. And he noticed I was upset, and he stopped the lesson on the central bank. And he says, "Victor, are you okay?" And I was tough, so I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." He said, "I'm here for you. We're here for you." And I said to him and the classmates, "Man, I'm just tired of these fools messing with me. I'm ready to go pick up a toy and handle my business." He looked around the classroom and he said, "What do y'all think?" And these students, man, they started speaking to me. They started telling me that they had my back. A white female classmate says, "Well, you should hang out with a group of people that don't get you involved in this kind of stuff." A black female student said to me, classmate said to me, "I know it's against your rules of not snitching, but you should let the counselors know what they're doing to you." And then a group of football players that were in the class, one of them, an African-American male, says to me, "Hey man, why don't you start hanging out with us at lunchtime? I don't think anyone's gonna mess with you then." My classmates had my back, all of them. And as I walked around school, right, every single one of them, right, as people approach me and try to mess with me, right, they stepped up, they spoke up, they went and told adults. And before you know it, I felt safe. And no longer did I have to go to my friend's house and try to get a gun to defend myself, because you all are more powerful than any weapon in this world. So young people, let's become proactive bystanders. What does that mean? That we no longer stop to watch people get bullied and punked. Let's speak up. Whenever you see someone getting messed with, right, you have a conversation with these bullies, right? Or you go to school security. And you know what? Soon enough, you could build a culture here at this school where no one feels left out. No one feels hurt. We begin to heal each other when we start having each other's back. Yellow Jackets, it's time to interrupt violence, to nip it in the bud before it even strikes, to be there for your fellow classmates, to look out for each other, to teach each other that violence is not the answer, to build a strong community, because if we can begin to interrupt violence in our school, we can begin to interrupt violence in this world. Imagine ending all war. Imagine ending all school shootings. Imagine having peace on earth. And it starts with eliminating those small pebbles. You see, young people, when you are ready for Berkeley High School to become a beacon of hope, a place to be proud of because we truly keep the peace, it will take your hard work, your effort, all of you in here. You will have to be brave and speak up. You will have to make a vow, a commitment to end this culture of silence towards violence. Let's all make a promise today to start the process of healing our community so that we can heal our country and change this culture of violence. Let's all take a vow to nonviolence. And next time someone messes with you, next time someone tests you, you can say, "You're lucky I took a vow of nonviolence, or you'd be suffering some pain right now." Thank you very much.